The quietest person in the room is rarely the weakest. They're usually the one who understands everything and says nothing. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's awareness. And once you understand why some people don't talk much, you'll realize they're playing a completely different game. Most people misunderstand quiet people. They label them as shy, awkward, antisocial, so they overlook them, interrupt them, or worse, they assume they're not important. But in reality, quiet people aren't invisible. They're just not performing. While everyone else is trying to be noticed, quiet people are observing. Not just what you say, but how you say it. They pick up on micro expressions, tone shifts, inconsistencies. They notice when your words don't match your energy. And over time, they build a map of who you really are. Here's something most people never realize. Quiet people treat energy like currency. Every conversation costs something: attention, focus, mental effort, and they don't spend that energy on things that don't matter. That's why they avoid small talk. Not because they can't do it, but because it feels like wasting something valuable. They don't chase more conversations, they chase better ones. Depth over volume, meaning over noise. While others talk to avoid silence, quiet people are comfortable inside it. And that alone makes them different. Their mind works differently too. Before they speak, they filter. Is this worth saying? Does this add anything? Is this even necessary? So when they finally talk, it's intentional. That's why when a quiet person speaks, people listen. Loud people often think out loud. Quiet people think before they speak. One processes externally, the other processes internally. Neither is wrong, but one creates noise and the other creates precision. Here's where it gets interesting. Silence gives you an advantage most people don't notice. When you don't reveal much, people project onto you. They guess your personality, your thoughts, your intentions. And in doing that, they reveal more about themselves than you ever did. This creates something powerful. Information imbalance. They tell you everything. You tell them almost nothing. And in any interaction, the person with more information has more control. But let's clear something up. Not all quiet people are shy. Some are confident enough to not need attention. They don't feel the urge to fill every silence. They don't feel uncomfortable being alone. And they don't measure their value by how much they're noticed. For some, though, silence is learned. They were once talkative, open, expressive, until they realized not everyone listens, not everyone understands, and not everyone deserves access to them. So they adapted, not by becoming weaker, but by becoming more selective. Quiet people don't open up easily, not because they don't want to, but because they know the cost of opening up to the wrong person. They've learned that attention is cheap, but understanding is rare. So instead of being available to everyone, they choose carefully. That's also why large groups drain them. Too many conversations, too much surface-level interaction, too much noise without meaning. It's not fear, it's fatigue. They don't avoid people, they avoid pointless interaction. What most people don't see is what's happening internally. Quiet people often have a loud mind, constant thinking, analyzing, reflecting. They replay conversations, break down behaviors, connect patterns others miss. So even when they're silent externally, internally, they're active. Silence also builds control. When you don't react immediately, you observe more. When you don't speak impulsively, you regret less. Quiet people tend to respond instead of react. And that difference changes everything. Over time, this creates a unique presence. They don't demand attention, but they attract it. Because mystery creates curiosity, and restraint creates respect. People start to wonder, what are they thinking? But silence isn't always strength. If taken too far, it can become isolation, avoidance, disconnection. There's a difference between choosing silence and hiding behind it. And even quiet people have to be careful of that line. The goal isn't to never speak, it's to speak with intention, to know when silence is power and when expression is necessary, because the strongest people can do both. So being quiet isn't a weakness. It's a different way of moving through the world. Less noise, more awareness, less reacting, more understanding. And maybe the reason quiet people seem distant isn't because they're closed off. It's because most people never go deep enough to meet them. So next time you meet someone who barely speaks, don't assume they have nothing to say. They've just learned something most people haven't. Not everything needs to be said to be understood.